Hey, what's going on everyone, and welcome to episode number 16 of the Python project. Today's episode is about Regex, which can totally be a pain for anyone who's just starting to get their feet wet with programming. So Regex is a really powerful way to search for patterns within the text, way more powerful than what you'd find using Control F or Command F. The syntax will look really confusing at first, but if you write it out step by step, it begins to make a lot of sense really quickly. Alright, let's get started. I'm going to use regexer.com as they provide tools to visualize a regular expression, which definitely helps with understanding it the first time through. So let's start off with the basic syntax of regex. You can see on the right hand side of the screen what all of this means, so if you ever get confused during the video, just take a look over here. So I'll be using the following text. Now let's say we wanted to just search for the word store. If we type this out, we can see that the word store is highlighted in blue, and there's only one instance of it in our string because it only appears here once. This is where all the matches will appear, so if something appears twice or 3 times, you'll see all of it right here. This is as basic as it gets, and what you're probably familiar with on a web browser or when you do a basic search on a Word doc. So what about numbers? Well, if we type something like this, you can see it won't return anything because it's looking for this exact number. If we want to specify that we're looking for any numbers between 0 and 9, we could clean this up by writing the following. So these brackets mean look for anything within these brackets in the string. Notice how we've returned 2 matches. Well, that makes sense because we only have 2 numbers and it's just looking for one number at a time. However, let's say we wanted to find all 2-digit numbers. Then we'd have to introduce the plus sign. The plus sign stands for 1 or more, so it's going to look for any of the numbers in the bracket at minimum just once, with no limit as to how many consecutive numbers it can return. So if we add a plus sign, we can see that it picked up the number 10, and if we add some numbers within the text like so, it's clear that there's no hard limit as to how many numbers we can have. We can write as many numbers as we want. But what about the way we wrote this? Writing all of the numbers out like this consumes a lot of space, but luckily for us, there's 2 shortcuts that we can use. The first shortcut is to just write 0-9 within the brackets, and the second shortcut is to write \d, where D stands for digits. Personally, I think 0 to 9 is much clearer. However, \d is comparatively less code to write, so it's up to you as to how you want to write it. So we've covered basic text and some numbers along with brackets, but we can make this a bit harder. Let's say for some reason that I only wanted the word person when it was at the beginning of the sentence. If I write person like this, we have 2 matches, right here and right here. If I wanted to get only person at the beginning of the sentence, we can use the caret symbol like so. Now we only have 1 match, and you can see it is at the beginning of the sentence. Alright, so far this sounds pretty boring because we really haven't done much, so let's add some more to the string. Now, what if we wanted to see how many times the person went to the store and how many items were purchased? Well, this is where it gets a bit more fun. We know that we're going to start our expression off with the word person, so we can type that out. Now let's think through this. We need to have some combination of letters, spaces, and numbers, followed by a period to mark the end of the sentence. So if we wrote something like this, then we'll end up including this second sentence where it doesn't mention how many items were purchased at the store. That's because these brackets state that we want either lowercase letters, uppercase letters, or a space, that's what \s means, 1 or more times after the capitalized word person. Now the key word here is or. If there are no numbers, it will still return a match because it's looking for either lowercase letters or a space. We know that we'll have words and spaces before reaching a number, so why don't we write this? We're adding the digits outside of the bracket because we need to have it within our match. No exceptions there. So because we wrote digits outside of the expression, we're telling regex there will be 1 or more numbers after a combination of words and spaces. But you can see the output tells us that we only include the number, not the space or the word items that appears after the number. This part can be fixed like so. So all I added was a space, that's what \s is, one or more alphanumeric characters, that's what \w with the plus sign stands for. It's easier to write it like this instead of writing lowercase a to lowercase z, uppercase a to uppercase z, and 0 to 9. And finally, I added a period. Periods are considered special symbols within regex. You can see here, a period stands for any character except a line break. So if we want to search for a physical period within our string, you have to add a \/ before it, so it knows to look for the actual period and not for any character. Now we can switch to Python for some more advanced problems. So I have a text document with hundreds of made-up phone numbers, and I want to be able to extract all of them. This sounds like the perfect application for regex. Let's start by importing regex and reading the file. Now let's look at the first few lines of this string. We can see that the general format of the phone numbers in this string is 3 digits followed by a hyphen, another 3 digits, another hyphen, and then 4 digits. So this format is actually pretty easy to write out. We have a \d, which signifies a digit, and these curly brackets right here specify how many items we're looking for. So I'm explicitly stating that we're looking for 2 groups of 3 digits and 1 group of 4 digits. But if you wanted to do something like this, then it would say we're looking for 3 or more digits here, and between 4 to 7 digits here. Now here's the other thing. It's possible that the phone numbers could be written in different formats, so here's 2 common types that I've seen before. The only thing that changed are the placement of these parentheses, and since not all phone numbers will have them, we need to include the question mark parameter. The question mark in regex stands for 0 or once, but an easier way to think about this is allowing items to be optional. We can modify our regex to include the optional parentheses, and remember, parentheses are special characters, so we need a \/ before writing one to tell regex that we're looking for an actual parenthesis, not trying to use a specific function within regex. So all I did here was add in a \/ and parenthesis, followed by a question mark to show that they're optional in the following spots. At the beginning of the phone number, after the area code, after the first hyphen, and at the end of the phone number. This is much more robust than the first pattern we wrote, and we can retrieve the values like so. So here are all the phone numbers within that text document, and if we want to see how many we had, there's 669 phone numbers, which would have been way too much work for us to do manually, but is extremely easy for regex to parse through. The last example for this video is finding URLs in a document. I've prepared 4 different formats of URLs, so we can try and make a more robust regex. Right off the bat, we can see that there are URLs with HTTPS in it and others without it. Same idea with www. So we'll have to use the optional parameter again. So these parentheses without a \/ are groups. Here and here, here and here. And groups are regex syntax to find something that matches exactly what we wrote inside the parentheses. It's either there in totality or it isn't at all, which is why we don't write this out letter by letter. So here we're looking for HTTPS : / and www. The question marks outside the groups show that this will be optional, here and here. But what about the question mark and colon inside the group? Well, when you use groups like this, you need to include the question mark and colon, otherwise the regex engine will only return what's inside the group. We don't want this because we have a bit more to write. So you can see if I were to execute this, if we have it with the question mark and colon, there's still a lot of work to do, but it looks like we're getting something. However, if we write it without the question mark and colon, then you can see it's retrieving a lot more information, which isn't what we want. Now, we need the name of the website, which typically has letters and sometimes numbers in it. That can be written like so. So what we just added was a \W for all alphanumeric characters, right here, and then we used a plus sign to show that we want more than one of these characters. Finally, we added in a period after those alphanumeric characters. And remember, a period is a special character, so we need to include that backslash right here. Lastly, we have the domain name and any backslashes in the URL if we're navigating to a specific page. So we need to include that in our regex. Once again, we call \W with the plus sign because the domain can be any sort of alphanumeric word that's at least one character in length. This part here in brackets allows us to include backslashes in the URL should they be present. This / right here is another special character in regex, so we need the backslash behind it if we actually want to search for a /. After a / in a URL is usually some words or numbers, which is where the \W and plus sign come from. To account for the chance that there are multiple / in the URL, we can enclose this in brackets and add the asterisk symbol afterwards. Asterisk means 0 or more, which makes sense in this application because there might not be any / at all after the domain. So if we run this, we can see that our regex was able to return all 4 URLs. Thanks for making it this far, and I hope you saw that regex isn't nearly as scary as people make it to be. It's an extremely powerful tool that can accomplish a lot once you learn how to write out the different patterns. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more Python projects. I'll see you in the next one.